Hello, I'm Christian Blocker, head of Ferox Productions, and this is AstroCry, a narrative-based hack-and-slash game focused on rebellion, control, and freedom. So let's take a look at our concept summary. So in the Asian-inspired city of Bonoi, Kaido Nyojung, a young local, plans a revolution against the interlopers controlling his home country. And these invaders are known as Unite. They're an empire who annex the entire world and want total control. And so Kaido's current mission is to steal the new AI-powered weapon created by Unite and ignite a revolution in a land that's forgotten freedom. Shaped on his mother's generational stories of Bonoi's peaceful agrarian past, Kaido has made it his mission to revert the city back to its old ways, no matter the cost. As time goes on, he finds himself becoming more controlling over his rebellion, becoming what he once despised. And along the way, he abducts Reina Novasoft, the young daughter of the governor of the province, as a bargaining chip. Becoming disillusioned by the harsh conditions the locals live in, Reina becomes sympathetic to the rebellion's cause and joins Kaido. However, her desire to help others comes into conflict with Kaido's ideas to complete the mission. And so as players make their way through the game, they will experience Kaido being forced to answer the answers to the question, does becoming the oppressor in the name of liberation defeat the entire purpose? AstroCry is a game about actions, principle, and control, and how their consequences shape both others and the self. So now onto genre and platform. So first, it's a side-scroller, and so enemies won't always be in view. It's a boss rush, so the only enemies will be bosses, and each boss has multiple phases. And it's hack and slash, so each boss takes a while to kill and requires the use of combos and special moves. And so these things sort of add difficulty, especially the enemies not always being in view, and with the different phases, new attacks and different music sort of add sort of new dynamics and cinematics into the game. So on to our platforms. Mainly, we're going to be focusing on PC, and for the rest of the presentation, we'll be focused on PC too. However, there could possibly be outreach to both console and mobile. So now onto core gameplay. There are 4 main game mechanics: fighting mechanics, boss mechanics, skill tree, and gameplay loop. And so for our fighting mechanics, our basics are just using the mouse to aim, or WASD keys to move and jump, and clicking to attack and shoot. And using the mouse allows you to aim wherever the mouse is pointed. And onto our advanced fighting mechanics, we have the Q key for parry, the E key for item, and the space key to switch between your weapon and sub-weapon. And so these items and sub-weapons you will buy at your main base in the game, but I'll go over that later. So now onto the boss mechanics. So each boss has multiple phases, and the music will update accordingly. There will be limited healing, and so items can be purchased, but they're rather expensive. So you're only going to want to use them once per battle and not use them often. Each boss has different mechanics, and so it sort of gives each one a unique style, and it forces the player to adapt to different bosses and different attacks. But the biggest part is that each boss has no set health. And so to explain this, we have this diagram here. The boss gets to a certain health, and then it waits for a point in the music where the user must parry. And from here, they can either succeed or fail. And if they fail, they go back to the beginning of the phase and have to get the boss to that certain health and then wait to that certain point at the music track. But if the parry is successful, the boss phase transitions and the music updates. And so this allows the music to be dynamic and to change more cinematically throughout the game, rather than just a hard cut from one phase to the next phase. You can also add difficulty by narrowing the parry window and making the music more unpredictable, so they don't know when they have to parry and they won't expect it. Now, we've divided the boss types into four types. We have the regular, which are basically typical bosses with a small gimmick, but nothing too different from a standard hack and slash. Survive bosses are where it's not really about how much damage you dish out, but mainly how long can you survive. And so it'll mainly be focused on dodging and parrying and that kind of thing. Environmental are bosses that affect the stage and alter how you fight them. And lethal bosses are bosses that can kill you in one hit, requiring you to change up your usual attacks. And so all of these make fighting more interesting, dynamic, and unique, rather than it just being mundane and the same. And so here are some examples. The Unite Battalion, which is a great example of survive, because you're constantly being pummeled by different police forces. And so you're having to fight multiple enemies at once and just really stay alive for the entire fight. The police robot is a great example of just something regular. It dashes in and out of screen, which is a small gimmick, but it ultimately is just a regular type of hack and slash boss. The Commander is actually a great example of sort of a blend between two. For example, he's a lethal boss because he's a sniper, which will hit you in one kill, but it forces the player to use cover, which sort of blends the environmental side of it. And the nuclear robot is a very clear example of environmental because it forces you to platform mid-fight so you dodge the pollution on the ground. Now, a big part is the role of Arya, which is the AstroCry, or the avatar, the AI avatar inside of the AstroCry. And she has three main goals: support, intel, and drive. For support, she will talk to the player mid-fight, giving them words of encouragement. And this starts out at the beginning of the game with her saying things like, good, you have a 65% chance of winning. But later in the game, it changes to something that has more emotion. But I'll explain more of that later. As for her intel, she'll give you advice on how to defeat the boss and sort of different lore notes about the boss too. And for drive, as I said, the way she speaks changes, which pushes forwards the plot. And again, more on that later. So now for the skill tree. The skill tree is a little bit different because we break it down into classes, and you can only level up within those classes. For example, we have the Breaker, Spectre, Striker, and Watcher, and you can only do certain moves within those classes. However, this makes it more replayable, because maybe the first time you play it as the Breaker, but then you want to switch it to the Striker, giving you an entirely different experience in the game, making it more replayable. Now for the gameplay loop. We start off with fighting the boss, and once you defeat it, you're able to collect the materials. And these materials can be used once you go back to the base, and where you can buy items and sub-weapons. This also allows you to replay certain missions so that you can get those more of those materials. Now, once you return to the base, you can upgrade your gear, such as your suit, and change your cosmetics, and upgrade your sword and that kind of thing, which then leads to more story progression once you're done upgrading, and then therefore unlocking new missions, which then leads back to fighting new bosses. So now on to story and themes. So Bonoi is an Asian cyberpunk megalopolis, and the whole point of Bonoi is to sort of be a combination of different Asian cultures and societies, sort of being a blend of different ideas. And so the best way to sort of think of this as an example is San Francisco from Big Hero 6. It's sort of a blend of different cultures, creating a unique sort of place. Bonoi was taken over by Unite, and it used to be a peaceful agrarian society. And so Unite is a country who's taken over the whole world and made every place technologically advanced. However, they do it forcefully, which causes different places to sort of rebel, such as Kaido and his rebellion. Now, the technology are futuristic weapons powered by energy, meaning they're mainly shooting laser blasts and that kind of thing. However, there will still be ammo that needs to be reloaded after a certain amount of time. And the other important thing to note is no AI has ever been invented until the AstroCry was made. And so that's what makes it such a revolutionary weapon, causing Kaido to want to steal it. So now on to our main characters. We have Kaido, AR-14 or Arya, which is the AI inside of the AstroCry, Reina, and Governor Jackson, Novasoft. So the main idea of the game is, what if a rebellion's leader became its greatest threat? And we get to see this through Kaido going from hero to authoritarian, and Reina counteracting that with her rise from hostage to moral compass, leading to Kaido having growth. And so this taps on themes of redemption, man and machine, rebellion versus control, and truth and power. So now on to our visual style. These will just be a collection of different mood boards to sort of give an idea of what things could look like. So for our environment, the main important thing to notice is that it's mainly just big cities and bright neon lights that contrast the dark industrial buildings. But it's important to note that there should be some variability between the different areas so that everything's not looking the same and there's more uniqueness within the land. Now, our protagonist, Kaido, is sort of like a samurai kind of ninja-like. However, I wanted to stray away from the typical use of a katana and instead use an Indonesian kara/kris sword. And so this sword is a big cultural focus on Indonesian culture, and so that's why I thought it would be really interesting to include it. The other thing that I'd like to note is we have some traditional Korean armor and a gas mask, and so this would be his suit at the beginning, but towards the middle of the game he gets something more technologically advanced, and so that's what we sort of see here. And of course you can always go back and equip the old suit back at the base and buy new cosmetics to your new suit. But that's sort of the basis of his design. Now for the AR-14 Arya unit, she is an AI avatar, so she is able to sort of have a unique design style. That's why I chose this anime girl here. And it really contrasts with her cold personality at the start because she's mainly giving stats and not really saying something emotional and cute like you would expect. Now, her main design gimmick comes from the fact that she won't have any colors and will instead just have one solid color outline, like this right here. She has taken inspiration from Emma Emmerich and sort of her nerdy sort of side in Metal Gear Solid 2. Now, Reina is, she has a wolf cut, and so that's what this image represents. This outfit here inspired what I created, which we'll see later, and her sort of face took inspiration from Katy Perry, and she mainly uses guns as her weapons rather than swords like Kaido. Now moving on to our antagonist, we have inspiration from Solid as Snake from Metal Gear Solid 2, but also inspiration from Mr. Incredible, as I like Mr. Incredible's hulking big build, and so I think that sort of could show Jackson's power within his design, as well as the hair here gives the impression that he's old, but sort of a cool old. And as for his outfit, I decided to go with something similar to Han Solo's outfit before he gets frozen into carbonite. And so we have a white button-down shirt with some pants. And so I think that would contrast perfectly with the technological society that Jackson is actually pushing towards for everyone else. Now for the tone and style, we have mainly the UI of, we'll have inspiration from the UI of Metal Gear Solid, as a lot of its sort of futuristic look and military type look. As for our colors, we have mainly neon blue and a neon pink and sort of just a blend in between them. And then for things like font, I was thinking of in certain parts of on like buildings and that kind of thing, we have an Asian language. Now it doesn't necessarily have to be Korean. I just chose this one because it's a really good example, because it takes the characters and makes them more futuristic and different. Like here, these are actually two characters, this circle and then that there, which when they're combined, they create sort of a new unique looking character, building to a sense of sort of futuristicness. Now let's delve deeper into our main characters. So first, Kaido Nyojung, he's the rebellion leader and the protagonist, and his personality is determined, but reckless and idealistic. And so that's sort of what causes more of his downfall. And his motivation, again, is hearing the agrarian stories from his mother. And so we're able to see his arc going from liberator, but turning into a tyrant in the pursuit of freedom, which then causes him to have to face his actions and decisions that he's caused. Now for Reina, her role was a hostage and then a rebel, helping fight back against Unite. She's compassionate, hopeful, and realistic, which directly counteracts Kaido's idealistic worldview, which is important. And so her arc, she starts out as a hostage who lets sort of things happen to her, and then a rebel who takes a more active role into things, even standing up against Kaido and his more tyrannical rule. Now, that AR-14 or Arya is the AI inside the AstroCry weapon, and she helps Kaido achieve his goals, whether it's bad or good. But once Kaido starts making bad goals and starts forcing Arya to help, that's when she begins to grow a sort of conscience and personality. And so, of course, it starts as cold, calculating, and contrastingly cute. But then it moves more towards actually cute and emotional and kind of nerdy. And so Jackson doesn't have a real arc. He's the main antagonist, and so his sort of position on wanting to retain power and keep that sort of makes him the villain. He doesn't change. Now, our target audience is for ages 13 to 15, with speedrunners, narrative gamers, and hack and slash. And we can appeal to these different groups of people by, for example, the speedrunners. We can put like a time at the end of the game, which boosts replayability. And we can even use things such as like a true ending if you get it under a certain amount of time. Fans of Metal Gear Rising, Katana Zero, Fury would probably enjoy this game too. And again, it's mainly PC, so there's potential reach for console and mobile. Now, our development plan, we want a 10 to 20 person team with about 2 to 3 people for our 7 departments. And so our departments are narrative, game design, audio, programming, quality assurance, art, and marketing. And so splitting them up into these different teams allows us to divide and conquer and really work on our specific tasks. So we have our timeline, and right now we're in the pre-production stage, but it should take around 2 years to complete the game. Now for our Gantt chart, it's mainly just a standard Gantt chart, but what I'd like to highlight here is the art and audio will be working throughout the entire course on specifically getting the designs and the music perfect. Because one of the things that I really want to push for in this game is having making things dynamic and cinematic. And so that's why they're really going to be working the whole time. And we'll see this in the budget too. So our budget is $400,000 estimated budget. And to sort of break that down between the groups, audio and art have 20 to 25% of that budget. So they're really going to be working on getting the designs and the music where we want them to be, to almost feel like a movie and a cinematic experience. And with that, thank you very much. I am Christian Blocker from Ferox Productions, and our games are fierce by design. Thank you very much.